Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we have an older case, Marvin Alvin Clark, and he went missing October 30th, 1926 from Oregon. It says he was 5'7" to 5'8", 150 to 170 pounds. It doesn't give the color of his hair or his eyes, and it also links to an article, which is interesting. And this is an older case, and I thought, well, this is very interesting. So I'm going to leave it in there. And anything that I skim over, you can always pause and read it as well. And it talks about what he was wearing. So I just thought this was so interesting. And this one, I love it because it has various documents. It has photographs as well as a newspaper article. So here's a photograph of him. For being such an old case, it's wonderful to see these photographs of this man that went missing, and nobody knows for sure what happened to him. And there's another photo, and there's another photo, and here's a link to a newspaper article they put on there. And it says he's 75 years old and he went missing. Tigard man, 75, missing. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Last seen at a stage depot. Search carried on past several days fails to locate afflicted man. Sorry, it's hard to read it. Marvin A. Clark, 75, well-known resident of Tigard, Oregon, the last 15 years is missing. He was last seen Saturday when he alighted from a motor stage at the terminal on Salmon Street. Sorry if I read any of this wrong. Portland, and relatives both of Portland and Tigard are making a frantic search for him. Mr. Clark left his home at Tigard Saturday about 1 o'clock, boarding a stage bound for Portland and presumably to visit his daughter, Mrs. Sidney McDougall, if I'm reading it right. I'm not sure. And there it gives the address. I think it says, I can't read it. I don't know if it's 735 or not. Hoyt Street, Portland. Search for, and I can't read that word either. Search for him was started Monday. I think that's him, I'm not sure. When Mrs. Clark at Tigard telephoned, the daughter in Portland and learned that he never had reached the daughter's home. Mrs. McDougall was quoted as saying that she was not aware that her father had intended visiting her on this occasion. He had only returned to Tigard from her home a few days previously. So did he go back? Maybe he didn't. Maybe there was some confusion there. The missing man is afflicted with, maybe he never made it back, and that's why I don't know. The missing man is afflicted with paralysis on the right side and is said to have a halting gait. His hair and mustache are white, gray, eyes blue, and he is about 5'8" tall and weighs about, I don't know what that says, 170 pounds. He wore a dark suit of clothes. It is not believed that he carried anything in the way of letters that would tend to identify him, and had only a small amount of money when he left home. One theory advanced by Mrs. Clark and her daughter was that he may have been overcome by illness on the streets in Portland and taken in at some place where he could not be identified. Telephone calls were sent to hospitals and undertaking establishments without results, and yesterday city detectives took up the search. It's I don't know. It's so interesting. And you wonder what happened to him. You wonder, did he go to visit? Was he on his way home? How did he just go missing like that? And they never found him? That's very sad, because then they can't have, how it's you can't have a proper funeral and a proper burial for somebody if you don't ever find them. And I love that they have photos of him. So it's such an old missing persons case. And normally, we do the missing person cases, to spark new interest and conversation in some of these missing person cases, hoping that the people will remember things or they will come forward, and hoping more cases get solved so that their loved ones can have closure. There are Jane Does and John Does and unidentified persons who should have their identities back so that their loved ones know who they are. There are people who still have hope that one day that they'll find out what happened to their loved one, that they'll be able to have a memorial service, to have their remains cremated and scatter their ashes, giving them a place to visit, or even to have some of their cremated remains with them in their home or in a necklace. Each missing person case deserves to have attention and to hopefully be solved. And if you have any information about any missing person cases, even if you gave the information to a detective years ago, or you're not sure if it's vital to help them solve the case, or it's hearsay, whatever, please contact law enforcement to give them that information, as they may not have information that you gave them years ago any longer after so many years have passed and it's gone through investigator after investigator and different ways of recording the information. And if you were afraid to come forward years ago, and maybe you're not afraid anymore, you don't have any reason to fear now, maybe you can come forward now if you have information about any missing person cases. As you go through these cases, please don't forget to pray for these the loved ones of these individuals, and please feel free to leave comments. And I just want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you found this case interesting. Being it's so old and maybe there's not information for people to come forward about, maybe, I could have considered leaving it out, but I don't want to. I want to try to get each and every case included that I can, because I feel that they're all important and that they all have their own significance. And so, anyway, please feel free to leave comments, and thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great day. Bye bye.